Hello, my name is Laura, and I'm a librarian in the Information Technology Department here at Mercer County Library System. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of our databases that are provided to us through InfoLink. These databases are excellent for homework help and for general knowledge, so they're ideal for both students and for adults. And they do cover a variety of topics ranging from health to history to science, and there's even a curriculum resource center for teachers. So before we get started, in order to get to our databases, you want to go to our website, which is www.mcl.org, and you want to look under Resources for Databases, or you can look under Branches for Virtual Branch and find the database link there as well. Like I said, the databases we're going to cover today are provided to us through InfoBase. So in addition to seeing them listed here on our database page as individual databases, for example, this African American History database, or the American History, American Indian History, American Women's History databases, listed separately, you'll see if I scroll all the way down to the I's, that we do have InfoBase Learning available titles. Issues and Controversies is another one that's in this suite of databases. So as we're looking at them, you'll see there really is a wide variety of topics covered in these databases. So what we're going to do is jump right into one of them. The one I'm going to look at first is the American Women's Database. One of the reasons for that is when I click on the regular InfoBase link that I showed you in the eyes, we do get a list of all of the available resources. With the exception of under history, you'll notice American Women's History is not listed here. We're not quite sure why that is, but it is listed separately. So when I click on the American Women's History, we go right into the topic as a subset of the American History Center. So in all of these areas, a couple of things you'll notice as we're going through them that is extremely similar is the setup with the main search area at the top, a topic area on the left, and then another sidebar on the right, which gives you some related content. In addition to the search box, you'll have a home button which will bring you back to the topic center. You'll have a browse where you can, if you scroll over it, get a list of different topics that you can browse within the subtopic that you're looking at. There's also the curriculum tools. I mentioned that there's a curriculum resource center for teachers. There's a lot of information in there in terms of handouts, teaching aids such as diagrams, slides that you can put into a PowerPoint, all kinds of stuff that are not lesson plans specifically, but that are there to enhance a lesson that's already been formulated. Students also have some tools in here under the curriculum tools, and I'm pointing these out in this database, but they're going to be the same in all of the databases. So you'll see things like analyzing editorial cartoons. There's information about primary sources, plagiarism, how to write a research paper, how to do citations, also how to evaluate online sources, which is very valuable today. So it explains to you why it's not always a good idea to just grab whatever you find on Wikipedia, that you want to verify your information by checking the sources as well as the information itself. So here's also the area for the tools for educators. In addition to some of the general things in here, this one in specific, because it's the American History database, does have a Themes in American History section. When you get to the Science database, you'll see there's information there about teaching biology or chemistry as well. The search options let you toggle between the simple search, which we have here, and the advanced search. It will also show you your search history. So if I wanted to see the advanced search, basically I can just narrow by record type. And in this particular database, there are articles, but it is also very rich in primary sources and audiovisual. So you'll see videos, images, newspaper clippings, and there's also the tools. So you might see timelines, diagrams, graphs, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to go back to the basic search by hitting the home. So actually I went back into the American History database, not into the Women's History. Okay, well, As I mentioned, the databases are all set up the same way. So going into the American History database, you can see that is quite true, that it is listed exactly the same way as the American Women's History that we were in previously. So again, I mentioned that it's pretty strong on things like primary resources and enhancements to the articles. So in this case, we've got the primary sources listed at the top. We've got your featured maps and graphs, and then you've got your videos and slideshows. And usually in these databases, there's also a list of featured people, and they're grouped uh, by category. So in this particular case, you're seeing founding fathers, first ladies, and at the top it tells me there are 9 different subcategories to this featured people. So I can keep going through and you'll see there's different great military leaders, US presidents. So this featured people obviously will change based on the database. For example, in the African American History database, it's arranged by type of category for the people, such as scientists, inventors. Um, Basically, you can then find a category based on uh, what topic you're looking for. Same thing with the slideshows and the videos. You're going to see different topic areas featured in here, and the same with the maps and the graphs. So for example, in the immigration area for the maps and the graph, it's going to show you like different, like I said, graphs. You'll see different maps in here. So we've got bar graphs, and you've got this map of Chinese workers in the West. So if you were to click on that particular one, you'll see you'll get a map of basically the 2 Western time zones right now, and you're going to see what Chinese immigration looked like coming from the Pacific Ocean eastward. Okay. So the primary documents, or the primary source documents, a lot of the times you're going to find things in here that are government publications, again, mentioning something like the American Women's History database or the African American database. You'll see things in here that might be letters from Martin Luther King Jr. You might see stuff in here that has to do with the ERA, letters and documents supporting that. In this particular General American History database, we're seeing Cold War documents, founding documents, State of the Union addresses. These are, like I said, primary sources because they are things that were happening at the time. The people that were acting on these particular events in history were producing them. So this is not a retelling of history so much as it was the speeches and the articles that were appearing at the time that related to passage of different laws or the actual text involving the creation of the U.S. Constitution. The resources area, in addition to what I've pointed out already, there are areas for themes in American history and timelines, and there's also the topic centers. So, for example, your themes in American history, once you click on that, this is where you're going to see, in addition to some of those areas that have their own topic center, you'll get into things like agriculture, pop culture, social history, media, daily life, that kind of stuff. So when you look at something like daily life and material culture, in the drop down, you'll now see a listing. What was family life like in the 17th century or food in the 17th century? So these are giving you, in this particular case, a taste of what it was like to live during that time period. So for all of these themes in American history, you're going to get those drop downs. So again, with the women and gender area, you're going to get broken down by century, uh, women and gender roles during each of those centuries. And then a lot of times you'll see these areas here, such as the discussion questions. So if you're a teacher and you want to start prompting discussion within your classroom, or if you're homeschooling, these are areas where you can go to see where you can start a topic discussion, or you might even be doing a research paper and you're looking for a topic to start with. You might want to look at the discussion questions and see what kind of areas you can touch upon based on what's in these themed areas. Okay, I'm going to go back to the home page. So we can look at, that was the themes in U.S. history. We'll look at the topics A to Z. And again, you're going to see each topic gets its own treatment. So for example, if I wanted to look at, let's find something that's got a pretty big Okay, we'll go with the Afghanistan War. Should have a pretty big amount or a good collection of stuff. So what you're going to see first is at the top are tabs for all of those types of resources we already spoke about. So you're going to see articles, which are going to give you a little bit more information. Underneath of the article, you'll get a little abstract, and it will also tell you what type of article it is and where it came from. Most of the stuff in InfoBase is going to be coming from a printed bound type of resource. So in this case, we're looking at the Encyclopedia of American Military History, 2nd edition. Once you get into the article, you'll see on the right-hand side where it says record information, it will tell you a little bit more information. And there's also right underneath the title a citation link. If I click on the citation, it does give me the exact specific information about where it was published. I can also pick different citation styles. So if you're doing a paper and you need to have this in the MLA or the APA or the Chicago or Harvard styles, you can go ahead and click the radio button and get that particular citation style for this particular article. You can also export it to EasyBib, so if you're using EasyBib to create your paper's bibliography, you can go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm going to go back to my search results to show you that using these tabs, I can go through from the articles to the primary sources. If there's any images or videos, they'll be there as well. And also my timeline will give you, a quick synopsis of this particular topic in history. I can also go to the news section, and you'll see I have 239 articles that came from a newspaper or news magazine source. They do have a lot of stuff from Reuters, Associated Press, and other news wires. So you are getting actual news that was published during the time. So again, that's a form of resource that was timely, and you get a sense of what was going on at the time that this particular event took place. Okay, going back home, so I'm still in the American History database. You'll see that I can also then go into videos if I wanted to specifically, and some of those topic centers are here. And there's that daily life that we looked at. So where we had seen the decades and the daily life in the topic center when we looked at women and gender roles, and we could see that divided like 16th century, 17th century up through the current day, and then see the discussion questions. If I wanted to get an idea of what society and economics and politics were in a specific decade or during a specific era in American history, I can either pick the daily life or the decades and eras and just get a complete overview of the 1970s if I wanted to, or life in the Gilded Age. Okay, so there are other areas. So here's an American women's history. Like I said, it's more of a subcategory to the General American History database, so you do have to find that under the social history area. So that's why the American Women's History is there, and when I click on that, that gets me back to the page we were at when we first started. So just so you know, once you get into the database, even if it's not something that's highlighted on our database page, you will be able to find it digging around within the General American History database. So that's basically the history resources. Up at the top, you'll see you have the option to go to more history resources or more InfoBase resources. I'm going to go back to the more history resources so we can look at just those subtopic areas. We do have modern world history, also ancient medieval history, in addition to the general American history, the African American, and the American Indian. I'm going to click on the American Indian history just to show you it's set up again exactly the same way as the General American History database. So in here we're going to see the same types of highlighted information on the left with the maps and the primary sources and the featured people. On the right, we'll also see our browse areas that we saw in the American History database, the topic centers, and then we have things broken down by era, and then there's subject. So what you're getting in here is, of course, now you're getting resources that are targeted. Instead of just a general overview of American history, you're getting things that specifically relate to Native American history. So that's what you're going to be seeing in here. And likewise, the African American History database will be the same way. The more InfoBase Resources takes you back to this general overview. So we've gone through the history databases. The other ones we have are more of a single database instead of a set of suites. Ferguson's Career Guidance Center, we actually cover in depth in the resources for job hunters. So if you're interested in that, you can take a look at that video as well. The issues and controversies, I mentioned this earlier. This is a good place to go for current event type information. If you have a current event project you have to do, or you're just curious about a particular item in the news, issues and controversies will cover it with a pro-con aspect of it. So what we're seeing is you're going to find things in the news. So right now we're filming this in April of 2020, so there's coronavirus information. And there's also information about paying college athletes. Again, you're going to see the same types of stuff at the top. In addition to what we saw in the history databases, you will see an issues listing, which will give you the A to Z list instead of subjects. And then there's also a resources area. So if you wanted to go right into a specific type of resource, you can jump right there. So if you're looking for anything on Bill of Rights in debate, court cases, anything that's going to help you maybe win a debate team discussion, or like I said, you might be doing something for a project where you have to present pros and cons as part of an oral project. You can go in there and find information on how to formulate your argument. So basically, the subjects are listed on the bottom as well. And you can also look at all of the topic areas by looking at issues A to Z. So instead of having to go through a subject list, you can go right to the issues and find something alphabetically. I'm going to just go here and grab assault weapons under government and politics so we can see what an overview or what an issues and controversies page looks like. You do get an overview, and then you'll see a list of pro and con articles. So basically each article will have a sub area. So this particular one deals with red flag laws, and you'll usually see two columns, one that is in support and one is opposed to the particular topic. So here's an area on gun control laws. You'll see a pro synopsis, an opponent, and a con synopsis. If you click on should the United States adopt stronger gun control laws, it will take you to the main page for that particular question. And in addition to that introduction, you'll see there's a full article with table of contents on the left-hand side. Then you'll see those same tabs we had seen in the history database with the primary sources, the media, and then infographics is here instead of graphics. And there's also a court case area as well as editorials to go along with the news. So since this is dealing with issues, you will see relevant court cases, and you'll also see any kind of media editorial that may have been published. Okay, so basically you can just kind of go through the article, and you'll see most of them are fairly lengthy and contain a good deal of information within the main body of the article itself. And then you'll get down to the bottom and you'll see your bibliography, which will usually cite articles from, like I said, newspapers and editorials. So that's what you're going to be seeing in issues and controversies. Going back to my main resources, there is a World Geography and Culture online. This is an excellent resource if you're just curious about a country, or if you're doing a report even for elementary school. You might have one of those reports where you have to give vital information about a country, talk about its culture, food, geography, music, demographics, all that kind of stuff. And that's basically what you're going to find in the World Geography and Culture online area. In addition to having a drop down where you can pick different countries, you can also pick U.S. states. So if you want more information about Idaho, you can go in there. And each one of the country and states areas are pretty much set up the same way. You'll see a flag, you'll have a map, and you'll have the at a glance area. Note that you can still email, save, print, or cite this material like we could in the previous databases we looked at. In addition to the at a glance information, on the left we have quite a lot of information that is available for you. So example, we could go to the state symbols, find out that the state bird looks like some sort of blue jay. let's see. Oh, the mountain bluebird is the state bird of Idaho. So you can see you'll get full color graphics as well. So you'll see what the seal looks like and what the flags look like. It's not going to just describe it to you. These items you can save to your folder. Your folder is up here on saved items. You can also opt to sign up for a free account and save stuff if you're working on it and you need to go back to it. But if you're doing research and you just want to put it in the folder and then at the end of your research session go into the folder and recall that information, you can do that as well. But you can go through and see things like the climate, famous people. There's a list of government information, how the government is structured in Idaho. So that's the kind of information you're going to be finding in the World and Geography online. I'm sorry, World Geography and Culture online. Okay. Just a few more that we can look at here. Bloom's literature. This is basically a lot of literary criticism. Again, you're going to see the same layout we've been seeing in the InfoBase databases. You're going to see most studied authors, works, and characters is what is going to be highlighted here. So you can think of this in a combination of two things. It's not quite a Cliff Notes or Cliff's Notes version of the works, but you will, if we go to Great Gatsby, for example, get a little synopsis. You'll also, so you'll get your character lists, your references, but you'll also get the literary criticism. The other thing you'll see in here is you'll get guides on how to write about a particular topic. Suggested essay topics will be here on the right. And so you'll see, and there's your overview and synopsis and themes and analysis. So basically you're going to get a rundown of the work as well as some tips on how to write about that particular work. The other things you'll see is on the resources, in addition to the studied areas, we do have a full index for authors, characters, and works. So if the one you're looking for is not here, or you can either browse for it or you can use the search up at the top and look. You'll also see, like I said, some essay topic suggestions, but then you'll see a little bit of information about literature in general. So if you're looking for poem information, it's in here. Again, we'll see timelines and topics and videos. They do have a special center just for Shakespeare, so that's here. And then you do have the how to write about, and then it will give you a list of different authors like we had just seen in the Great Gatsby article, how to write about a specific author and their work. Okay, the Health Reference Center. We'll probably go over health databases in another video, but just so you know what's here in a brief overview. So we won't go in too much in depth, but again, for doing research purposes, we are again set up the same way as we were in all the other databases. You'll notice that there's some tools in here as well as the main articles. So you'll see things like the BMI calculator. There's an area here for medical tests. So if you're having a test done, blood test, imaging test, whatever, you can look it up and see what's exactly involved in it. They've got things like the My Plate area. There's also organizations, there's hotline information in here as well. So if you need to contact a particular health organization regarding a specific disease, or you want more information for like the poison control hotline, for example, will be listed under there. You can reach out and find that information in here. In addition, you'll see the usual tables and data and all that kind of stuff that we had seen in the previous databases we looked at. We do have health centers, so specifically women's, senior, teens, men's, and children's health is in here. So if you're looking for topics based on age, that would be available. The reference center also has topics. So if you're going through something like you're trying to learn anatomy, there's the whole section on body systems, I'm sorry. And then there's other topics such as nutrition, plastic surgery, alternative medicine. So there's different articles in here. And again, I'm not really going to go in depth because they do present themselves very much the same way as the ones that we looked at in the history database. Okay. Going back, we'll look at World Almanac and curriculum resource in a minute. Right now, I just wanted to point out the Science Center. Again, pretty much seeing the same thing we've been seeing since we've started looking at the history databases, where you're going to have highlighted on the left, and then you're going to have your resources and your topic centers on the right. Because it is, of course, a different type of topic than what we've been looking for, some of the stuff that's unique to this database, you will see science experiments available. So if you need to do a science fair experiment, this is a good place to turn. And you'll also see the topic centers are arranged by a much broader topic than what we would have seen in the history center. So you are looking at biology, chemistry, forensics, physics, that kind of stuff is in here. So this is pretty good. They've got some e-learning modules as well. So if you needed to work through learning something on basic chemistry, for example, you can go through the essential chemistry, and it will give you little information about, let's just look at the electrons. It'll give you basically a tutorial on what are electrons and how they are related to chemistry in general, and probably neurons and protons. Neurons, protons, whatever. Neutrons and protons, sorry. Okay, so back to the home on the science. So we do again have videos, diagrams, and famous people, but you'll also see science news is here as well. So if you want to look at, again, some of the topics that are popular right now have to do with coronavirus. So we've got how bats supercharge their viruses. So that's the kind of stuff that's going to be showing up in the recent news. So you can see this is current news. Okay, back to the main page. So we can go over these last two. The World Almanac for Kids. This one's another fun one that has a lot of general topics in here, general information. So even if you're not doing a research paper, maybe you're not even a kid, and you just want something that's a quick, easy read so that you get the basics and you just might not trust Wikipedia, this is a good place to turn, but it's also a good place to go for learning at home. So you've got things like sound and light. So if you happen to be homeschooling, you can go into some of these areas and get fun facts and videos and key people, but you'll also see there will be pretty much tutorials that will guide you through learning about sound and light waves, then just light and sound itself, and how light and sound relate to our senses. So, for example, how the eyes sense light will give you an overview of eye anatomy and how all of the different parts of the eye work in order to present an image to the brain. Okay, so going back to my main resources. Oh, I should have mentioned there's also games in here. So if you're looking for something a little bit more fun than just a basic article or tutorial, there are different games you can play. So for example, they're all arranged by subject. So if you wanted to go into ILA and find a game that's helpful for teaching something, let's see, we've got grilled cheese, please. Let's take a look at that. So we've got some music going on, and then basically spelling words. So I'm going to get out of that. But you can see that there's things in here that make the learning aspect a little bit more fun and interactive. And then, like I said, the resources, we've got fun facts, and you can just jump right in there. There's also a homework help area in here, which will give you, again, some tools and tips very similar to what we saw in the literature databases and the history databases, how to use a dictionary, how to write a book report, how to write research papers. So those tools are in here as well. Okay, the last area is the Curriculum Resource Center. And again, I had mentioned earlier, these are not necessarily lesson plans, but they're a good place to turn if you would like to find some supplemental information. So again, if I click on historical maps, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of those maps that had come up when we were looking in the U.S. history database. But the other thing too is there are other areas in here, such as if I go into the algebra area for math activities, I've got things where I can do basic algebra. So if I want the factoring polynomials. It'll give you some activity information, and I can download the PDF if I'd like to see the exercises that it's got figured out for you. So basically, the Curriculum Resource Center, it's going to give you some supplemental information that you could use in PowerPoint slides, or activities that you can give out to students, or other areas, teaching aids basically, instead of, like I said, not necessarily a lesson plan, but something that would aid you in enacting a lesson plan. Okay. So that's basically our Facts on File InfoLink database suite for, like I said, general knowledge, homework help, and some teacher aids as well. So good luck with it. We hope you enjoy using the database. Bye.